Hello, everyone. Hope you're having a fantastic day. My name is Kmart, and I want to talk about some basketball. And today, we are going to be talking about the matchup in the Eastern Conference Finals. It is the Boston Celtics taking on the Indiana Pacers for a spot in the NBA Finals. So, let's talk about this matchup and how the Pacers are going to attempt to take down the odds-on favorite in the Celtics and the number one seed in the East. So, first things first, in terms of head-to-head matchup between these two squads, Boston did take the season series. That was a season series that was extended by one extra game because of the in-season tournament. So Boston took 3 of the 5 games that these two teams played against each other. In terms of health for the two squads, the Celtics still have a little bit of a question mark in the form of Kristaps Porzingis. His status is up in the air still, I suppose would be the way to say it. I think the Celtics do expect him back at some point, but that point is not 100% sort of locked down yet. Meanwhile, for the Pacers, they are mostly healthy. No sort of new injuries. Benedict Mathurin was already out from earlier in the season, so they came into the playoffs knowing that they wouldn't have him, and I don't believe anyone new has gotten hurt since. So, in terms of the matchup itself, we'll start on the Boston side. They are the pretty heavy favorite here, and there's pretty good reason for that, right? The Celtics have been one of the best defenses in the league in the regular season, and that has largely been the case in the playoffs as well. They have allowed just 96.7 points per game. That is second among playoff teams. They're allowing a field goal percentage of 44.9 against them. That is sixth amongst playoff teams. And they're allowing the fewest rebounds per game to their opponents at just 35.8. So, the Celtics defense has held up incredibly well here in this playoff run. Meanwhile, on the offensive side of the ball, they've been strong as well, especially when it comes to the outside game and shooting the three. Boston is 6th in points in these playoffs, 3rd in field goal percentage. They're also 3rd in three-point percentage and 1st amongst playoff teams in both three-pointers made and three-pointers attempted. So they've been scoring well, they've been shooting at an incredibly efficient rate, and they have really burned teams from beyond the arc here. So you've got a team in the Celtics that has been pretty much elite in the regular season and the playoffs on both sides of the ball, offensively and defensively. So if you look at this from the perspective of the Pacers, how are they going to win, right? How are they going to be able to topple this seeming juggernaut in Boston? There are a couple of points here that obviously aren't guaranteed to help the Pacers win, but couldn't hurt. First and foremost, the Pacers have to compete inside. Both of the Celtics' previous opponents attempted to do this, right? Cleveland tried to do this with guys like Jared Allen and Evan Mobley. Miami really attempted to feed the ball in to Bam Adebayo. In both instances, it really wasn't enough, obviously, right? The Celtics took those series in 5, but it still needs to happen for Indiana, right? They don't need to necessarily dominate down low. That would certainly be nice. It wouldn't hurt for the Pacers' chances, but they need to be competitive, especially on the rebounding front. I mentioned just a moment ago that the Celtics are 1st in rebounds allowed. They themselves are 3rd in rebounding for their own side. They have a differential of plus 9.1 per game so far in these playoffs. So they do not give you a lot of second chances on the offensive end, and they don't allow too many rebounds on the defensive end that would lead to, quick outlets and fast break opportunities. They really try to clamp down on that front. So the Pacers are going to have to compete. They're going to have to try their best to mitigate, or in the best case scenario, wipe out that sort of massive differential that the Celtics have. And it's something that I think the Pacers could do. Their rebounding numbers are maybe slightly lower than the Celtics, but Indiana is second in these playoffs in terms of points in the paint. So they've gotten used to playing on the interior for the most part, and it's something that they're going to have to sort of keep going against the Celtics. And the other sort of half of the equation here for Indiana, talked about them having to compete inside, right? Continue to score points in the paint, try to be competitive on the rebounding front. The second point is basically the opposite of that. They need to shoot the three consistently. The only times that Boston has lost so far in these playoffs, it has been when they shoot the three poorly while their opponent sort of shoots it pretty damn well themselves, right? You take a look at the two losses that the Celtics have in these playoffs. Game 2 against Miami, Boston was 12 of 32 from 3. Miami was 23 of 43, which was, I believe, a franchise record in terms of threes made in the playoffs. In Game 2 against Cleveland, a similar scenario. Boston went just 8 of 35 from 3. Cleveland shot 13 of 28. So very rarely do the Celtics have scenarios where they shoot that poorly from 3, right? I mentioned earlier on, they lead the playoffs so far in terms of three-pointers made, three-point attempts, and they're third in percentage. So they very rarely have an off night, but when they do, their opponents absolutely have to take advantage of it to get the wins that they've gotten so far. The good news for the Pacers is that they're a pretty good three-point shooting team in these playoffs. They were a top 10 team in terms of three-point percentage in the regular season. Here in the playoffs, they are 5th in their three-point percentage at 37.1%. They're 3rd in three-pointers made and three-point attempts per game. So this is a team that could potentially sort of go toe-to-toe with the Celtics in terms of the outside shooting, and if a scenario develops again where Boston falters in terms of their approach from beyond the arc, the Pacers are in a decent position to take advantage of that. All right. The Pacers have been a prolific sort of offensive team really all season long. They led the league in scoring in the regular season. So far, they lead all the playoff teams in scoring as well. So there is an outside chance here that Indiana could play at a faster pace and maybe sort of tire or wear down or break that Celtics defense, right? Speed up the game, put Boston on the defensive, maybe try to punish some of their slower older guys like Al Horford in particular sort of come to mind there. That's certainly a possibility, something that the Pacers could attempt to do, but there's a lot of moving parts here, right? The Pacers have to play at a fast pace. They need to outshoot Boston from beyond the arc. They need to either win or be close in terms of rebounding and points in the paint, and that's a lot of moving parts for a Pacers team here. Those things can come together all in one game, right? I mean, it just happened for them in Game 7 against the Knicks. They shot a just stupidly high percentage from the field, so it is technically possible, but can all of those moving parts, can all of those separate pieces all happen simultaneously for 4 out of 7 games? That seems significantly less likely, right? And it's part of the reason why Boston is the favored team in this matchup. They have very rarely given their opponents all of those opportunities, right? Maybe they have a night where they're not shooting well. Maybe they have a night where their points in the paint's lower. Maybe they have a night where the bench scores a little bit less. But they very rarely have nights when all of those things happen simultaneously, and it feels like that's what the Pacers are going to need consistently to win this series. So if I had to choose, I would take the Celtics somewhere in the realm of 5 to 6 games in this series. I don't think Indiana is going to allow itself to be swept, right? If Miami and Cleveland took a game off of Boston, I expect the Pacers to get at least one as well. But winning the series outright, that feels unbelievably unlikely. Definitely possible, but the Pacers would have to show us an unbelievable level of offensive prowess and efficiency here. So I'd love to see it, but I don't think it's really going to happen. But That's what I think, right? Boston's the favorite for a reason. They have been the best team on paper, really, throughout this season and throughout pretty much all of this playoff run. But feel free to let me know what you think. Do you believe that the Pacers could pull this off? If they do, who's going to be sort of the hero for them, right? Is it going to be one of their sort of three main guys, Halliburton, Turner, and Siakam, or is there a sort of dark horse candidate coming out here, right? Will we see a TJ McConnell game, right? Or will someone like Nesmith suddenly sort of blow up for a 20 or 30 point game or something like that? How do you see it sort of playing out if the Pacers manage to make this competitive? But either way, please feel free to let me know what you think. But other than that, thank you all so much for watching, and I will talk to you later.